Bright days are on their way. Forever's how long they'll stay. Bright days are on their way.
I really thought my life would be completely different than where I am right now.
Chasing sunsets in the sky. Won't let these moments pass us by. Take my hand, don't be afraid. The brighter days are on their way.
Well, I made it to 31 and I really thought my life would be completely different than where I am right now. And I want to be brutally honest and, sound off down below if you are. I feel like we all at some point have been sat back and we're like, wow, I really did not think that I would be here. If you haven't met my face before, hi, my name is Rebecca. I am a 31-year-old mama here in WA, Australia, and I have medical needs. I'm also raising my daughter who has very complex disabilities. And on this channel, I talk through that journey. I talk through my motherhood journey very in depth and very raw and very honest. And I also go through, because I'm on Centrelink, and, I go through my low budget financial, situation. If you want to join this little community that I've got going here, thank you. And let's get into today's video. So, when you're young and you just think, oh, when I'm older, when I'm 23 to 25, I'm gonna, or at least in my head, I was like, I'm gonna be married, I'm gonna own a house, I'm gonna have kids, I'm gonna have a good career, all that kind of stuff, yada yada yada, all the things. And then you hit 25, or at least I did, and the world went, psych, here's a major pandemic that's just gonna disrupt all of your plans and all of just everything that you thought you would want to do when you were 25. That was 25, that was 6 years ago. I'm 31, not much has changed. I have more anxiety, more mental illness, more medical issues that I have going on. But there are some really, really good things that have come out of the choices that I've made and just how my life has panned out. I'm in a very long-term loving relationship for nearly 8 years and we have a beautiful little daughter. There are some days where I feel really sad and I really reminisce about the person I used to be 10 years ago to the version that I am now. I speak about it a lot with some of my close friends where I'm like, wow, I kind of miss that version of me. And I don't know if everybody goes through that or if it's just me. Yeah, I was a very different person. I was much more outgoing. I was very outspoken. I was traveling everywhere. Now because of things that have happened, not just with my daughter, but just myself and the pandemic and just how everything has panned out for me is really just, I've really become a shell of who I used to be. And I'm slowly, in the last 3 to 6 months, I've really slowly started to chip away and, I've been doing EMDR for the last year and a bit, so I've really been very slowly chipping away at healing a lot of, the stuff that I used to bury down when I would travel or when I would go out, or, you know what I mean? I used to really, on the outside I looked like I had such a fun life, but really I was struggling a lot back then. So I think in the big picture, when you look at it as, from an outside, you think I miss that version a bit, but really, when you look at it from a different perspective or a different angle, or even just an outside perspective, because you aren't the version that you were, but you would look at yourself and be like, wow, I have really grown a lot and I have healed a lot, but there is still so much more to do. I am nowhere near where I want to be with my healing journey, my motherhood journey, my self-esteem, my confidence, just who I am as a human and how I approach life. And I wasn't perfect at it back then. I'm not perfect at it now. I don't think any of us are. It's not the point, but I'm at least thankful that I get to look back at that time and reminisce and miss a lot of it. But then I also get to think, wow, how much I've grown. I really truly believe that you don't grow as much if you don't have challenges. We all have challenges. It's what makes us resilient. It's what makes us confident in who we are. It's what, it's also the people around us, the people that we surround ourselves with who have our backs, who support us. Those are the types of people that really shape your journey, as well as the choices that you make. Sorry, I'm kind of rambling a bit, as I usually do, but yeah, I really do not think that I would be still house sharing with family at 31, and with my partner and our daughter and kids and parents, and like that's just been my life for the last 3 years, is house sharing with family members. And I was independent from up until then, so I've really been griping with that, because me 10 years ago I was, well, actually no, me 10 years ago I was still house sharing, but it was just a different time. We were all 21, 22, we were clubbing every weekend, we were out partying, we'd be up all night, like, we would be able to handle all of that, that was just the time, that was the fun thing to do when you moved out of home for the first time. But I've been out of home for 10 years, and I've now gotten myself back into it because of, financial struggles and the cost of living, and I know that I'm not the only one going through that kind of, struggle of like, we're all kind of stuck in this, one-dimensional type of point of history and of our lives that we're in, of like, kids nowadays are having to stay at home longer because of cost of living, whereas me at their age at 21, I was already out of home for like a year, living with friends, and rent was cheaper and everything else was cheaper, and I was travelling to, Gold Coast and New Zealand and seeing family and going on all these really wonderful adventures that I truly cherish. And I don't know if I'm ever going to get back to that version of me, but I do miss the person that I was, but I also miss the time. It's that nostalgic feeling, and I've heard somewhere that nostalgic isn't actually a positive feeling to have, even though sometimes we think of it as positive. It's actually, when you look at it really deeply, it's actually a really sad emotion to feel. Like, it's not nice. Like, me thinking back to early 2000s, when I was under the age of 10 and had no, the only care I had in the world was what I would wear that day, or Christmas, or what I would get for my birthday, or that was truly all I cared about back then, whereas now it's so much more than that. And I think that's a part of growing up, right? I think, as kids, we're all like, oh, I can't wait to be older because, I get to do adult things, not knowing that adulting is really, really hard. And when you add the pandemic, and basically when you add things that you can't control, that's where it makes it really challenging. But again, like I said in the beginning, it's that challenge that makes us so resilient. It makes us different people. It makes us grow. So while I find those times really, really challenging, and I still have a lot of trauma from a lot of past challenges that I've had that I'm trying to work through EMDR therapy and stuff like that, I know I would not be the person that I am and have grown as much as I have if I didn't go through those challenges. And I think I'm not the only one that can sit there and say that. I didn't think that back when I was 15, 16, I was like, I'll be able to drive everywhere. I'm legally blind. I can't drive. I've never been able to get my license. That's something I didn't think would happen. I do go more into detail in a couple of videos if you're interested in that journey, but it's been that's been a challenge in and of itself, but it's made me so resilient. At times it's really challenging, but it's kind of to the point where I don't have any other choice but to go through it, So there's that. I also didn't expect at 25 to suddenly start losing my hearing in my left ear and start having vertigo attacks and end up being diagnosed with mini ears disease. That's a new thing that I didn't expect, and it to be so debilitating as it has been the last few years has been extremely challenging, on top of having a very, very high complex medical needs child. That's something I didn't expect to be going through at my age, and I know it's the stereotypical thing of like, oh, you get a house, you get kids, you get a husband or wife or whatever it is you're into. You really picture that, but then at least for me, I got to this point at 31 and I'm like, I'm at the point now where I'm just here for the ride. I'm here for whatever the universe wants to throw, whatever curveball the universe wants to hit. Like, I've gone through that many challenges, and I think we can all say this, no matter what we've been through, we've all gone through really tough challenges that make us so resilient. But it's also okay to say that, like, we're struggling, or that we're not okay, or that we're in a really tough spot, and to lean on our support, to lean on our family, our friends, our community. Sorry about the lighting change. Anyway, kind of makes it a bit more gloomy, doesn't it? But another thing, I also thought that I would have a really good career. I'd be set. I wouldn't be on Centrelink at all. I wouldn't have gotten on Centrelink at all. And I've been on Centrelink since the moment I turned 18 on disability. So, and now I'm on parenting payments and all that kind of stuff. So it's just, and especially with my daughter and like her medical needs, I don't see myself getting a job properly until she's in school full time and it's a bit more settled and, all of that. So not for another year also. And I'm okay with that. I'm going to choose this time wisely, especially from, this point forward. I'm choosing it wisely. I'm trying to be a better person. And that's a lot of that is through therapy, and that's financial, that's money, it's from that perspective. And I've learned, and I still make mistakes, and I think that's a part of being human. But yeah, it's just a really interesting scope to look into of like, you really take like a bird's eye view of where you thought your life would go, and it's nowhere near. Some of you might look at that and be like, oh, I'm exactly where I thought I would be. But I think a lot of us can say like, no, we are definitely nowhere near where we thought we would be. Yeah, and it just is what it is. But it's also like, and that's not to invalidate people that are really struggling right now. It's more so just, you can't, and I'm saying this to myself as well, because I'm really, really bad at this, and I'm learning, but it's so hard to not try and control every single aspect of your life. And the phrase of like, it is what it is, it's just like you have to go with the flow with some things. You can't change everything. You just kind of have to be resilient in that sense. And I think, coming from the challenges that I've had personally, and a lot of people don't know a lot of the challenge, my personal life, a lot of people don't know some of the challenges that I've been through. Not because I haven't asked, but because there are just some things that I keep close to my chest. My partner knows mostly everything. But yeah, there's just some things that, really truly make you strong. And so many people like recently have come to me and have said, I take my hat off to you because I could not do what you do, with your daughter, with the way that you go about your life and the way that you approach life in such a positive way. And I tell them, like, look, that's not without my challenges. I have a lot of them, and they're continuing, and they're just overlapping with each other, and it's really hard. I don't know, I feel like I'm just rambling now. Let me know in the comments down below your thoughts on, where you're at, where you thought you were going to be at the age that you are now. Yeah, just let me know, sound off down below, and thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!